year one for Jedd Fisch at Washington, I think, should be considered a success. Yes, they did go 6-7, so a losing season, but they were dealing with a brand new head coach and practically an entire new roster after being the national runner-up just the year prior. So getting to a bowl game, I think, was a massive accomplishment and a massive foundation being laid for the future, and there is a lot of reason to be excited for Washington football heading into 2025. Lots of reasons, so much so people have them pegged as a potential Big Ten title or maybe even playoff sleeper. 6-7, a lot of people aren't thrilled with that, but one thing you should be happy about is the fact that Washington found themselves a quarterback. The end of last year, Damon Williams took over in the second half against UCLA and then played against Oregon and then played against Louisville in their bowl game, a game where they lost by just 1 point, one of 3 one-possession losses for the Huskies last year. But Williams, during his time, went 82 for 105, 944 yards, 8 touchdowns to just 1 interception, also rushed for nearly 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has Denzel Boston returning at his disposal, the second leading wide receiver on the team last year with over 800 reception yards, and they add Omari Evans in from Penn State. They also have a 1,000-yard rusher in Jonah Coleman, also had 10 touchdowns, and the offensive line should improve. They need to improve. They gave up 39 sacks last year. Must improve if Washington wants to take that next step under Jedd Fisch, wants to live up to the hype and the expectations of being a sleeper, not just in the conference, but on the national stage. But the offense has a lot of excitement, a lot of firepower. I think they could be really, really dangerous. Damon Williams is going to be an absolute star. Defensively, 7 starters are back after giving up just 23.8 points per game and only 167 passing yards per game. They have one of the best secondaries in the nation, and they will remain that again. Got a guy like Ephesians Prysock returning. Dakario Davis transferring in from Arizona, a huge pickup for the Huskies. CJ Christian transferring in from Florida International. So the secondary, despite losing a few guys from last year, adds a few guys this year, looks to be really, really strong. And while they do lose their top 4 tacklers, which always hurts, they add Ontario Thompson in from Western Michigan on the defensive line. They also have Isaiah Ward up front. They lose all 3 linebackers from last year, but then, in the world of college football, landed a rival player. Tariq Al-Ukta comes in from Washington State alongside Jacob Manu from Arizona. Those 2 guys should help out not just the front 7, but also stopping the run after the Huskies gave up 162 rushing yards per game last year. All in all, this is a team that is built to win, has a fairly favorable schedule that they could maybe do some damage with. It's just a matter of whether or not they can live up to the hype. Let's jump into it. We'll start at the schedule. They will be 2-0 just like that. They will beat Colorado State. They will beat UC Davis. And then, unfortunately, they get a very early bye week in week 3. Never want to get one that early, but just how the cookie crumbled for Washington. So they're 2-0. Then they come out of it and they take on Washington State in the Apple Cup, the 117th Apple Cup, a game that Washington lost last year, 24-19. It was a bit of an upset. They lost 3 games last year by 1 possession. Washington State was one of them. Rutgers, they lost 2 by 3, and they lost to Louisville by 1 in their bowl game. It was a 6-6 regular season. I think they beat Washington State this year, though. I feel very confident in that. Washington has won the last 4 Apple Cups in Pullman, and the Cougars are kind of in a state of disarray right now. They lost a lot of guys on their roster, the coaching staff, everything from this last year. Not a whole lot of experience coming back, kind of in a state of limbo, so waiting on the new Pac-12 to be formed. Might not be a great year for their in-state rival. Washington should win this game. They are 3-0. Then they come out of that and they play Ohio State at home. Keep in mind, Washington has won 20 straight home games. And at this point, assuming they beat Colorado State and UC Davis, it would be 22 straight home games, which is insanely impressive. This feels like a trap game if I've ever seen one for Ohio State, right? A team that dealing with some questions at quarterback. Will Julian Sayin pay out? Will the defensive line bulk out? There was a lot of starters up front. A lot of questions surrounding this Ohio State team, and it's still relatively early enough in the season. But I just can't pick Washington to win this game just yet. I do think this back 7 for the Buckeyes will be a little too much for Damon Williams, who will be facing the toughest defense he's seen this season. He's not going to face much of a test against Colorado State, UC Davis, or Washington State. So the toughest defense he's faced so far, that will be Ohio State. I think he struggles a little bit against that. The secondary, as good as they are, will they have an answer for maybe the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith? All in all, I think the Buckeyes are just a little too strong. They're also coming off a bye week coming into this game. Ohio State gets the job done in Seattle, but it will be close. Washington drops to 3-1, but they will be 5-1 after their next 2 games because I think they will cruise past Maryland and I think that we'll get revenge over Rutgers. It was an absolute thriller last year in Piscataway, lost 21-18, missing the 55-yard field goal as time expired to try to tie the game. Rutgers will be solid this year. I think they're going to be a better team than their final record shows. Maybe the best team that Greg Schiano has fielded since he returned to Piscataway a few years ago. But it's a long road trip for the Scarlet Knights to make, and I'm not sure their offense can keep up with Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and guys like that. So Washington does win. They're 5-1 at the halfway point of the season. They are highly ranked. They are dreaming of a playoff berth. They are dreaming of a Big Ten title. But then the schedule gets tough. The schedule is a lot tougher. The season really will be made for Washington on the back half. At Michigan, a good Illinois team. At Wisconsin, you could probably overlook Purdue if you wanted to. At UCLA and Oregon. Some really tough games in their final 6 compared to the first 6 with their toughest games, Ohio State. So if they're 5-1 or better, things are looking good. If they're 4-2 or worse after the first 6, got some questions. But regardless, let's see how they're going to do in the second half of the season. They go on the road to Michigan. I think that's a loss. Rematch of the national championship from 2 years ago. Washington got their revenge over Michigan last year. Beat the 10th-ranked Wolverines 27-17 at home. Held the Wolverines to 287 yards of offense. But that's not saying too much considering how bad Michigan's offense was last year. This year, they should be significantly better. Bryce Underwood comes in as the number 1 ranked player in the country coming out of high school. So already better quarterback play for the Wolverines. The defense is going to be extremely strong once again. And then, of course, this is at the Big House, one of the most difficult places to play in the country. I just don't think Washington has enough to win this game on the road. They will fall to the Wolverines. They're 5-2. They come back home to take on Illinois in what I believe is a winnable game. It's a winnable game. Illinois is one of those teams that has high expectations, really not a very difficult schedule. 19 starters back, including their veteran quarterback Luke Altmaier, a solid running back core, really strong in the trenches, both the offensive and defensive line, and their secondary is unbelievable. The question is whether or not Brett Bielema will live up to the hype, live up to those expectations. I think at least against Washington, he will. This is another case where I am concerned for Damon Williams against an elite secondary. He was phenomenal last year in the limited time that we saw him. Again, the second half of UCLA, Oregon in the finale where they got blown out, and then Louisville. Obviously played very well, but none of those teams, maybe with the exception of Oregon, really had elite defenses like Ohio State, like Illinois, maybe like Michigan. So I do think the Fighting Illini will come on the road and get this win at Washington. So a team that maybe going into the Ohio State game had won 22 straight home games will already drop 2 home games before the month of November. I think the Fighting Illini are just that good. They're going to slow down this Washington offense. They're going to get the job done. Coming out of the bye week, they're 5-3. They go on the road to Wisconsin, and I think they lose that game. So I think they lose their next 3. I know Washington fans are probably ready to destroy me here, and I have no doubt about that. Be the first trip to Madison since 1968. Very tough environment, though. The only thing that's comparable to that is the road game at Michigan. Everything else has been pretty lax. I'm not too concerned about Pullman, and then all the other games are at home. So coming out of a bye, they have to go to Wisconsin, who could be fighting for their postseason lives, who, yes, did go 5-7 last year, but obviously should be a little bit better, at least competitive-wise, this year. They've got better quarterback play with Billy Edwards. They've got 8 starters back on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not saying this Wisconsin team's going to be a world beater by any means, but I do think they have the defense, again, the keyword is the defense, to slow down this Washington offense, especially with the Madison crowd backing them up to win this game. So the Huskies drop to 5-4, get bowl eligibility with a win over Purdue. They're 6-4. That's, rest assured, they're there. They're in the postseason, which is massive. And then they've got to decide now, are they going to go 8-4, 7-5, or 6-6 for the second year in a row? Already, some would deem this a disappointment at 6-4. I think a lot of people think they could beat Wisconsin, think they could beat Illinois. Maybe you think they can beat Ohio State on September 27th. I don't know. But 6-4 as of right now. They then go on the road to UCLA. Last year's game was interesting to me. It was only a, 17-13 game entering the fourth quarter. It was actually a 17-13 game with less than 6 minutes remaining in the game before Washington finally pulled away to win 31-19. That, to me, felt more like a game where UCLA beat themselves than Washington beat UCLA. The Bruins had 2 turnovers that led to 10 Washington points. The Bruins were held to 2 field goals inside the 25-yard line and missed a 2-point conversion. You take away a couple of those things, they probably win that game. And I think UCLA wins this game now. The Bruins get revenge at home, at the Rose Bowl, senior day for them. better quarterback play than they had last year now that Nico Iamaleava has transferred. A very underrated defense, one of the best rushing defenses in the country. UCLA will slow down Jonah Coleman, which means Demond Williams has to do everything by himself. Can he? Absolutely. Will he? I don't think so. UCLA gets a massive win in a similar position to Wisconsin, where they could be fighting for their bowl lives, their postseason lives, just to keep them alive. They beat Washington. They're 6-5, setting up a senior day showdown in Seattle against their bitter rival in Oregon, a team they lost to by 28 points last year. But, and I'm sure, again, I can't wait to read the comments, but I think Washington wins this game. And there's a lot of reasons I'm going to go into this. Look, the Huskies are going to win one of their major home games. You don't just win 20 straight home games for nothing, right? So you look at the big home games. Ohio State's one of them, Illinois is another, and Oregon's the other. They're winning one of those. Maybe you think it's Illinois. Maybe that's the most winnable in your eyes. But I look at this Oregon team, and I am concerned. Are they a playoff contender? Yes. Big Ten title contender? Yes. We don't know much about Dante Moore. We don't know if he's truly going to pan out. We don't know if all these transfers are going to pan out. Looking at you, Florida State, just because you bring in guys that look good, sound good, doesn't mean they're going to pan out. So they got a lot of guys that transferred on the offensive line, a lot on the defensive line. They just lost Evan Stewart probably for the entire year to a massive injury. So I've got some questions about this Oregon team as a whole that concerns me. Now you've got a Washington team maybe looking to play spoiler on their senior day, looking to definitely play better than they did last year. I like Washington in this spot. I think they can get this win. I really do, because that's how concerned I am about Oregon. I'm not saying they're going to fall off the map, but I think Oregon is going to take a bit of a step back. It's only natural after going undefeated in the regular season, and the Huskies are going to play a massive, massive spoiler. They will win one of the big home games. It just so happens it'll be the last one against their big-time rival. Washington pulls off the upset. They shocked the college football world. They clinch a winning season, 7-5, 4-5 in conference play. And I will be honest, looking at this could be the worst case scenario for the Huskies. A lot of people are hyping them up, believing in them. Maybe I am being too harsh on Washington. I will be the first to admit. And I will be the first to admit if I am wrong. Maybe they are able to beat Illinois. Maybe they are able to beat UCLA or Wisconsin. I think the range for Washington probably goes from 7-5, where we have them, to 9-3. I think you could maybe beat UCLA, get you to 8-4. Maybe you could beat Illinois, get you to 9-3. I don't think they're going to be better than 9-3. I think that's probably their ceiling this year, barring some crazy upsets. Maybe we have them farther on the low end, but I'm not quite ready to pick Jedd Fisch in this squad there yet. Not quite ready to have them living up to the lofty expectations, picking them high in the standings, picking them high in the playoff race. Not quite there yet, but next year, they can get a handful of these guys back and have another solid transfer class. Next year could be that year. But regardless, still trending in the right direction. Washington clinches a winning season, a shot for 8 wins if they can win their bowl game. Demond Williams will become a household name by season's end. They will shock the college football world in the season finale. In 2026 will loom even larger than this year with even higher expectations. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, home to our weekly newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content there to help you get through this offseason, and content that you do not want to miss during the regular season as well. Take advantage of it. Become a member of our GE Nation, again, over on thegridironexpert.com. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.